Well, hello there, and welcome to Roundtable here on Telile Community Television. I'm your host, Adam Cook. This week, our special studio guest is the Executive Director of the Richmond County Literacy Network, Mitch David. We'll talk about several programs that the Literacy Network is going to unveil over the next few months, including some developments involving activities that are happening even in the next few days. And we're also going to recap several items from the recent Committee of the Whole meeting for Richmond Municipal Council. Let's kick things off with what seems to be an annual occurrence for the early part of the new year. Specifically, the Property Valuation Services Corporation sends out property assessment notices to local residents, and many of those residents are concerned about their property taxes going up, so they send complaints in to Richmond Municipal Council. How is the municipality planning to deal with these concerns?
The property assessments that were issued by Property Valuation Services, I know many people got those in the mail this week, and I wanted to add it to the agenda because I've been getting reports back from constituents that assessments have gone up small amounts, but then some of them have gone up extremely large amounts. I've seen a report of almost $70,000 in an increase in an assessment, and another one today of a $100,000 increase in an assessment. So that is a very troubling statistic. And it's a troubling cost for homeowners to bear. So I guess I just wanted to provide some background information for members of the public and watching and members of the gallery here. First of all, municipalities, we don't set property values. We set the tax rate, and we haven't changed that rate since our last budget. But the property assessment, of course, impacts how much you're going to pay on a yearly basis. The property value is set by Property Valuation Services Corporation. They provide the assessment services and information for all of Nova Scotia's municipalities and property owners in accordance with the Nova Scotia Assessment Act. And every year they issue assessments based on a variety of factors, and this year seems to have really hit some people really, really hard. So I just wanted to make sure that we were publicly acknowledging that, but also providing some information that property owners can view detailed information on their assessment by accessing My Property Report on the PVSC website. You use your assessment number and a PIN to access your information, and you can get a PIN number by calling them. To get that PIN number or to appeal your assessment, which I would highly recommend that you do if you've seen that large a jump or any kind of jump that you feel is inappropriate in your assessment, please do appeal it. You can contact their assessors. They're available to answer questions by phone at 1-800-380-7775, or you can email them at inquiry@pvsc.ca. And I guess at this point, I'm hoping that maybe we could share this information through our social media channels, Troy, if that's, and thank you, because I think there are some folks who have been hit particularly hard by this, and we need to keep that in mind and do what we can to help. Did anybody have any questions or additional comments on that item?
Yeah, I'm glad you added it to the agenda because it was, yeah, this ain't matter more than I've been swamped with calls. One thing I guess, we don't set the property valuation service, we don't set the assessment, but we do set the tax rate.
Yes.
So again, I know we're looking at low-income seniors, and we've had that discussion earlier that we're having our CEO look into, but it might be also something we can look into because the tax rate, the increase in the PVSC is obviously going to increase our tax base. So again, we do have the power to potentially adjust our tax rate to work back with the people.
Yeah.
I guess ultimately what I'm saying is we potentially have the power to reduce the tax rate if required.
Well, we wouldn't do that in the current fiscal. No. We would consider that at budget. Right. Yeah. So just certainly something for us to consider at budget time, and yeah, for sure.
Some of the questions that, and I don't know if we can get a criteria from them, how they actually go about the property valuation. And again, some houses that are, $500,000 homes are getting, or $1 million homes are getting assessed at little to nothing, and then other homes that I personally know sitting on sonotubes without a foundation shot up $80,000. So I don't know
So I think the best we can do, like in terms of immediate action, is we need to encourage people to appeal their assessment if they feel it's unfair. I think, maybe there's some broader investigation we can do, but I know that there is only a certain amount of time that you have to appeal the assessment, so I'd really like us to focus our efforts there if that's possible, but, in the meantime, maybe we could check in with PVSC to find a little bit more information about how that's being calculated. Sorry, go ahead, Troy.
If I may, Madam Chair, and through you to the council, the PVSC has mentioned that they will come and do presentations numerous times. Our local reps here in Cape Breton will come, and we could look at our committee of the whole schedules for the rest of the winter and spring and see if that's something that could help. But like you said, we'll do the social media and our website for now.
That'd be good.
But having them come in at a future committee of the whole meeting may not be a bad thing, just to remind people why things are the way they are within the Act and how they adjudicate things.
Thanks, Troy. Yes, go ahead, Melanie.
Yes, so and also the PVSC's website actually is fairly informative. It does have a fair bit of information. It's got data in terms of like where they gather their data to do the assessments. It talks about how they classify properties, the methods that they use, and the testing methods that they use. And I know I've had conversations with them previously for certain things, like you were talking about, Councillor Digdon, like that what feels like a bit of an inequity, for lack of a better word. But again, they can't review every assessment. They just put things up by percentages, but then given this data, it will hit a certain catchment area from what I understand. So I know from having discussions with them, I learned a fair bit in terms of why things change the way they change. And so I do feel like having someone to come here to do a presentation would be so valuable. And I do think, if we're going to put on the website, like on our socials, to direct people to the assessment appeals section of their website, obviously we could say something in terms of like understanding your assessment. They also, again, to the warden's point, if you go in online and you put your PIN in, it will actually tell you what they have as data on your property. And so that's how they're basing some of their calculations. And so if something is incorrect, that is a perfect reason why. So it says you have, and again, I haven't looked up my own recently, but I think it will come down to saying, you have 2 finished washrooms, or like whatever the square footage of your house is. And if that's not right, then that's part of the reason why your assessment is too high, and that is an easy appeal. So I just, again, would strongly encourage people. I think it's always when these assessments come back and they're so large, people really start. And I guess to that point, I would also say I was speaking with somebody who represents an organization that is exempt from taxes, and they just made a comment that they had gotten a notice from a PVSC on it was the church, right, for the graveyard. And then I think I had found something online, and I just didn't have a chance to do more research on it, that there are more assessments coming out in the properties. But again, some of them would be covered under the rules that exempt the religious organizations. So just there may be some people listening online who are with NPOs or things like that, and they may be concerned because they may have gotten documents this year that didn't look right to them. And again, I think it brings us back to the point. I hate to kind of take up too much space in this discussion, but the discussion that we've had at budget many times about the grants in lieu for taxes that we are giving, and how some of these assessments are getting quite large, but organizations are not trying to appeal them because they're free. You know what I mean? And they're as I tried to explain to the organization that mentioned to me, oh my God, the assessment went up to this, but it's okay because we don't pay tax. And my comment is, it's not really okay, because if it's $485,000, remember the taxpayers of the county are granting you the money to cover those taxes, and it does create inequity between some organizations. So again, I feel like as assessments continue to rise, the conversation about taxes in lieu needs to be had again, I think, in terms of, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Melanie Sampson. So maybe from that, are you looking to refer the, like bylaw 56, I think it is, back to policy and bylaw for review? Committee? Okay. So maybe we could pop that onto our list in terms of an action item. Or actually, maybe we'll put that in a motion so that it gets captured as an action item. Sorry, guys. Right, so could I have a motion to refer bylaw 56 to bylaw and policy?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Councilor Sampson. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thanks, Councilor Digdon. Any further discussion? It might be an opportunity for us to request from all of the folks who are listed in that bylaw to provide us with their latest assessments so that we can also have, you know, yeah. Okay, perfect. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried.
So how can the municipality of Richmond deal with rising property taxes as a result of assessment notices from the PSVC? Well, Richmond District 5 Councillor Brent Sampson has a proposal for a low-income tax rebate that could help out with property taxes for several people that fall within that particular bracket.
So what I put here for the background information, many counties throughout Nova Scotia offer some property tax exemptions for residents who are below a specified income threshold. Although the province does offer relief for low-income seniors, the hope is we could maybe develop a policy to enhance that as well as include residents who maybe don't qualify under that as seniors. So included information from some other Nova Scotia municipalities that have programs such as this offered. I believe in there was CBRM, Victoria, Annapolis, Antigonish, Pictou, and Guysborough. And I'm sure if I had kept searching beyond, there are some more available. But some of these are applications, some of these are the policies. I just thought it was good background information for people to look through. They vary on the income threshold, I think anywhere from maybe mid to high 20s to 35,000. There was one I think was 27.5. There was one up to about 35,000, and offering a different amount of financial support. So basically my ask was if we could request staff to investigate the cost of such a program here with a few options on income levels and relief levels. That way it would give us a bit of options maybe come budget time. I figured if we started at that, or staff was given that notice now, it may give us some options at budget time to see about whether or not we could implement something like this.
Thanks, Councillor Sampson. I think your agenda item is extremely timely, considering that the assessments have come out in the last week or so. So maybe I would ask the CAO to respond if you would like to add some comment.
Sure, not a problem. I've seen this used in other municipalities, and we can come back with options with thresholds on the limit and the relief for you guys to consider based on our numbers and our tax roll, so that you guys can see how that would affect us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Troy. So I think based on the CAO's response, maybe we could have a motion to ask staff to investigate the cost of such a program at multiple income levels and relief levels and refer the information collected to budget discussions.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Any further discussion on the low income tax exemption?
Madam Warden? Yeah, so just, and I don't know that it's for discussion, but maybe just for CAO's purpose, part of the meeting that myself and Brent attended that this information come about was from Sean Andrews of Guysborough. So maybe just reach out to him. It'll give you I believe the number he had come up with was the low income exemption that they use is under 35,000. So again, just.
Thanks, Councillor Digdon.
So the Guysborough example, because I was kind of working on this prior to that, so I didn't know they had it, but the Guysborough example is in the package, Councillor Digdon, if you want to check that.
Okay, thanks, folks. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried.
And now we have an update for you on the situation facing the Petit de Gras branch of Eastern Counties Regional Library. Located at Centre La Picasse in Petit de Gras, the library branch suffered damage from Hurricane Fiona in September of 2022. They are still trying to deal with that while also finding a temporary home for the library branch. So let's see how Richmond Municipal Council dealt with a recent financial request from the Petit de Gras branch of Eastern Counties Regional Library.
and of course is related to some of the damage that was incurred and the repair that's being planned post-Hurricane Fiona. We're still talking about Hurricane Fiona. It was a devastating storm, certainly, but it will require the library to move locations, and so they're looking for the rent coverage to be covered for about a 2-month period, I believe, while they conduct those renovations. So I guess at this point, open for discussion, but if folks don't have concerns, that I would look for a motion to approve the allocation of those funds. But do folks need some discussion time on this first? All right, so the motion would be to approve the allocation of funds to support rental fees for the relocation of the ECRL Petit de Gras Library for a period of up to 2 months, during which time the renovations take place in February 2024.
I'll make that motion. Yep.
Thanks, Deputy Warden. Any seconder on that?
I'll second that motion.
Thanks, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I do have a question. Just a question in terms of budget where we could see that. Are we okay to, do we have a little spot for that somewhere, Jason?
It's a great question. It's a pretty nominal amount.
I'm assuming it'll just come out of the library budget. I don't want to put Shannon on the spot and defer to her necessarily unless she wants to speak, but again, it's only $1,000, so I'm not concerned about the amount.
Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried.
And staying on the theme of literacy, it's been a very busy time for the Richmond County Literacy Network. They're introducing some new programs over the next few months. They're also having an open house coming up in late January at the new headquarters for the RCLN in St. Peters. And at the same time, the Richmond County Literacy Network is also trying to sift its way through the replacement of the previous GED program with a brand new Made in Canada alternative. To get the skinny on all of these details, I decided to speak to Mitch David, who became the Executive Director of the Richmond County Literacy Network just this past fall. Here's our conversation at the Telile Community Television studios in Arishat. And now, joining us on Roundtable here on Telile Community Television, we're pleased to welcome the Executive Director of the Richmond County Literacy Network here to tell us about some upcoming programs. We are pleased to welcome back Mitch David to Telile. Thank you, Mitch, for joining me here on Roundtable today.
Thanks, Adam.
We have you here for a number of reasons, partly because you are still relatively new to your position as Executive Director, but the Richmond County Literacy Network has been working hard on a number of different things. So we'd like to get kind of a catch-up statement from you in terms of what's happening in now and where we go from here, because I know you're working on some programs for the spring, but what can you tell us about what you and your Literacy Network colleagues have been doing in the present and what we're looking for in the future?
So, I mean, the Richmond Literacy has been really, really busy. I've created a lot of partnerships with local business, government agencies, namely River Roots, Nova Scotia Works, NSCC, Department of Community Services, Telile for that matter. So, I mean, Becky and I collaborate on different things, so I'm here quite a bit. But yeah, with the collaboration comes new programming. So besides the fact that we have 2 programs running through the Nova Scotia government, NASAL, we do have, I've put a couple of proposals out there and they're starting to come back. So things are going quite well. We're starting to get a little more popular and our name is getting out there. We're hiring, new instructors. Things are going really well. Yeah.
That's good stuff. Now, the last time you were here speaking to Becky, you brought up the idea that the Richmond County Literacy Network had been honored by the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce. You and Millie Hatt, one of the former directors, was there, and you folks were entered into the Club 25 for being 25 years in the making. Does the reputation of the Richmond County Literacy Network precede it sometimes, now that you folks have been a long-running organization. You have bounced back from recent difficulties. Do you feel that there's respect in the community, not just from some of the partners you mentioned, but also from the individual participants, because the Richmond County Literacy Network has been around for a quarter century and counting now, that you folks are continuing?
Well, it's an interesting topic for sure. I mean, I'm never going to try to do what Millie Hatt has done, because she was a phenomenal star in our community for 24 years. She really, really brought a lot of programming. And if I might shout out to Millie, over 6,000 learners in 24 years, over $6 million in revenue. At one point, she had 45 employees. I mean, that's a great goal to look to, but we'll see. Yeah. At this point, I mean, I have a lot of energy, so I'm going to attempt to reach those numbers, but we'll see. Yeah, and I think the break that we had just recently, 8-9 months break, I think it did it good. Mm-hmm. Because I think what's happening now, we're sort of seeing an influx of people, they missed literacy, Richmond literacy, and today I think it's very popular. Mm. The name is getting around. We're on Facebook. We're developing our new website. So all these things are making, our numbers are doubling with the courses. Things are going well.
Well, that's terrific to hear about the numbers going up. And, talking about Millie Hatt, I think it's good to illustrate that you're obviously not working alone. You've got a board of directors, a new chair of the board of directors, Paula Kavanagh. We've had her in to speak to us as well. And you've got some great instructors and others that you folks are working with throughout Richmond County.
Absolutely.
So, can you talk a bit? Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that team effort and that team feeling right now?
Well, I mean, our board of directors, I'm not going to try to name them because I'll screw that up.
That's okay.
Right now, we've had 7 board members. One just actually resigned, personal reasons, but we have 6 solid board members who have, gone above and beyond the call of duty to make RCLN what it is today, really. They've hired the right people, in my opinion. I got hired in September, and then we hired one of the ladies that's instructing. I'm not going to mention names right now, but our instructors are more than capable and well-liked and very respected in our community. The teamwork really comes in with the collaboration between the team. We have staff meetings, we have, of course, board meetings, and we discuss all the issues that we have, and we try to solve it. Things are going really, really well. Very, very enthusiastic. I have very enthusiastic instructors, so yeah. Can't say enough about it.
Now, one of the reasons I did want to bring you in, we'll talk a little bit more about some activities for the Richmond County Literacy Network in just a moment. Wanted to help clear up some confusion because the federal government recently announced that the GED testing program, which is to say General Educational Development, is being replaced this coming spring by a new program called the Canadian Adult Education Credential.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's helpful for our viewers to understand what exactly that means. And I think one of the biggest places to start there is to mention that the GED is produced in the U.S. It's not produced in Canada. So is that basically the only change that people will see, that it's a made in Canada test right now? How does it work?
Well, I mean, the thing of it is that that American content, at some point, the Canadians decided to make their own I guess, grassroots version of the GED, and it's the CAEC.
Yes.
And it's totally Canadian content. The thing of it is about our province is that the NSCC is going to be helping out. There'll be the testing sites, and for that matter, if you need anything to go with your online AEC work, you can go to the NSCC and get that help. Mm-hmm. They will also proctor you, as I said. It's a testing site. Every single NSCC across the province will do this. Mm-hmm. So you can do your work online with the AEC. It's a similar content to the Americanized GED. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a good thing. It may be more familiar to Canadians than what they think. So, yeah.
Yeah, so this will work out basically the same as it's done before, the idea that people can take their CAEC online, where they would have taken the GED before, and then they can just go to, locally, they'd go to Straight Area Campus and finish up with one test there. So it's a pretty straightforward process.
It is a very straightforward process, and I think at the end of the day, it'll be less stressful in a lot of ways. It's Canadian content.
Okay.
And it's being replaced. It's not the end of the ability to get your high school diploma. It's just another version of it, and it's probably a simpler version of it.
Okay, well, that could help out local people trying to finish
Absolutely.
it up. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on then, because it's coming on the end of January, and we have a couple of very special events coming up for the end of January. Of course, the Richmond County Literacy Network is always front and center in celebrating Family Literacy Day, and that is on January the 27th. So I'm just wondering if you can tell us about any special activities that the network has planned, and basically talk a little bit about the importance of Family Literacy Day.
I really wanted to celebrate our open house, or grand opening, new grand opening, on the 27th, but that didn't work out. So we decided that next Wednesday, the 31st, would be our open house for the Richmond Literacy. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, two birds with one stone. We're celebrating Family Literacy Day, and we're opening our doors to the public.
So they'd both be happening then on the same day, on January 31st. Is
31st, yeah,
okay.
For us.
Right.
We will also be talking about family literacy on our Facebook site.
Sure.
Family Literacy Day was actually founded by the United Nations back in 1967, and the purpose of it was to actually bring literacy to the forefront, bring awareness to it, because literacy is a human right. And we'll call it Canadians, but all over the world. And we have a right to have education, and this year the theme is family and literacy. So basically on the 27th, or in our case on the 31st at our open house, we can talk about stories, we can read books, we can talk about any type of literacy. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's all about. Yeah. So it's great.
And for the benefit of our viewers, of course, let's remind them that that open house is taking place at the new headquarters for the Richmond County Literacy Network. That's at the library office on Grenville Street in St. Peters. And we've been there as Telile as well, doing some work over there. So it's been great to see how that facility has settled in as the new location right now? Or are you looking forward to being able to really fling the doors open and say, come on in?
Absolutely. The day of, on the 31st, it's from 9 to 3 p.m.
Sure.
So what we will be doing is we have special guests coming in from Wagmacook. They will be doing a smudging, just a couple of exercises that they do. They'll have a table set up. We'll have a table set up where we have information about what we do, our courses. We'll have finger foods. We'll have special guests. And door prizes. We'll have lots of door prizes. We'll have, actually, beyond the door prize, there's a bigger prize. So that'll be chosen very carefully and announced, of course. And that'll consist of, businesses in our area they've given us gift certificates. So we'll be sticking that in that basket, as well as, I think River Roots gave us a little bit of like honey and so whatever. But it's all geared up to, welcome everybody in, promote our product. It's going to be a fantastic day. Really looking forward to it.
That's wonderful, and we'll be doing some special coverage of what River Roots is up to as well here on Telile, so it's good to hear that they're partnering with you folks as well, too. That's great. All right. We've covered a lot of ground here, Mitch, as I thought we might, and I'm glad for that. Did you want to add anything else about all of this, or looking into the future just before we wrap up here?
I would like to talk a little bit about what's our courses.
Go ahead.
Besides the courses that I've already mentioned in the last interview with Becky, we have 2 courses that are sponsored by Department of Community Services. And one of them is it's Schools Plus, ourselves, and DCS is funding it. But that's going to be driver's ed for ages 16 to 20. And we're doing the curriculum part. So anybody out there that needs driver's ed, 16 to 20, can contact us, or you can contact Annette at Beauport, Annette Keogh.
Yes.
And then the second program that just got approved actually today is the Employable Cooking Guru.
Now, what's that all about?
So again, we've included in our proposal River Roots. So River Roots will be renting their kitchen to us, and our instructor will be teaching folks from DCS how to cook, how to manage their grocery bills, shopping wisely, you name it. And within that course, there'll be, first aid, food handlers, you name it. All the courses that you need, with the intention at the end of the day, it's not only education, it's employability. So it can possibly give you skills to work in a local cafeteria, restaurant, school, whatever. So it's pretty exciting. That's going to be happening very shortly.
Well, the sky's the limit for participants in Richmond County Literacy programs, so that's wonderful. All right, well, we're glad we timed that just right, that was just approved today, that you could come in and tell us a little bit about that, so that's fantastic. Mitch David, it's been a pleasure to speak to you again and to hear about all the things happening with the Richmond County Literacy Network. Quite a bit going on. And
there's lots going on.
We're glad to have you, and thank you for joining me today on Telile's Roundtable.
Thank you.
All right. Mitch David is the Executive Director of the Richmond County Literacy Network. We've been speaking to him right here at our Telile studios in Arishat. Stay tuned for more of Roundtable in just a moment. And just a reminder to our Telile viewers, you can see this interview with Mitch David on its own on Telile's YouTube channel. Right now, we're going to stay in St. Peter's, which is, as you've just heard, the new home for the formal headquarters of the Richmond County Literacy Network. The Village of St. Peter's recently made a request for a financial guarantee from Richmond Municipal Council to cover some necessary repairs taking place at infrastructure within the village. Here is the councillor for that area, who also happens to be the warden for Richmond County, Amanda Mumberket, setting things up at the latest Committee of the Whole meeting for Richmond Municipal Council.
So these, I think we've seen come in from time to time. They seem a bit of a formality, but we are required to provide that guarantee because that's the nature of the relationship between the village as a municipality and the county as a municipality. So we'd be looking for a motion that we approve a loan guarantee in the amount of not more than $185,000 for the purpose of the village to conduct lift station upgrades and WWTP electrical upgrades.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Councillor Melanie Sampson. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried.
And now we have an update for you from the committee that's been designated to recruit healthcare professionals, including physicians, nurses, and other medical professionals in the Strait area, specifically the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health Committee. Warden Amanda Mumberket provided an update on the committee's activities at the latest Committee of the Whole meeting for Richmond Municipal Council. And the warden noted that the committee right now is reacting to recent developments at Cape Breton University, which has received government funding to be able to do more training for medical professionals right here in Cape Breton Island. Here's the warden with her thoughts.
We did have a meeting of several folks from CBSRH with the new folks involved in the Cape Breton Medical Campus that is being developed in Sydney. It's pretty exciting stuff, I have to say. They talked about this new center really having a rural focus, which of course appealed greatly to the folks in the room. We met at the Dr. Kingston Memorial Health Center last week. So just to give you a quick overview, they have received almost $60 million in investment from the Nova Scotia government. They're, $49 million for the creation of a health sciences center at the at the current NSCC campus, Marconi campus, which they will take over. A little over $6 million for the creation of a 10,000 patient collaborative clinic, and $3.7 million for expansion of health and counseling centers. So it's a pretty exciting project. They're considering it a regional campus with Dalhousie Medical School curriculum, and it's really focused on addressing the need for primary care in rural areas. And they are expecting an opening of August 2025 with 30 students. I think an other interesting note that I wanted to mention here is that CBU is hiring a housing consultant to address some housing challenges really, around the post-secondary situation that's happening in CBRM, but also in general, and with a focus again on rural areas. So it was a really informative conversation. I want to thank Dr. Orrell and the folks from the Cape Breton Medical Campus who made the time to bring a team down to meet with us and talk about their priorities. I think what the footprint looks like here in Richmond County and in other places that are a little further away still remains to be seen, but there certainly is a focus on rural, and they seem to be interested in working with us.
Over the past couple of years here on Telile Community Television, we've brought you updates about an early childhood program called Raising the Villages. It's been getting financial support from Richmond Municipal Council for the past few years. However, at the latest Committee of the Whole meeting for Richmond Council, there is some discussion on how active Raising the Villages actually is in Richmond County and whether that level of activity warrants the funding that the municipality has been delivering to the program over the past little while. Here's the discussion from Richmond Municipal Council's latest Committee of the Whole regarding Raising the Villages.
We have a couple of items that require some action. The first one is a grant request from Raising the Villages Cooperative Limited for the Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Funds in the amount of $5,000. So the application has been put together for us, and Yes, they're looking for an investment of $5,000, and I know earlier today we received an update from Jason, as the CFO, to on the status of our grant funds. So it is getting pretty low, but just wanted to open this one for discussion. But just for folks' information, we do have a little over $8,000 left in our regional grant fund, if I'm reading that correctly. So I would, I guess, open this one for discussion regarding the Raising the Villages request. Councillors agreeing with the $5,000 request, or are you suggesting an adjustment, or?
Yeah, I just noticed throughout it was at $3,000. It seemed like they were looking from Inverness County, and I know it was less for the town. Would probably have different financial implications there, but I just wondered for the amount of it it seems to have gone to Inverness County so far, but I know they are trying to plan more things for Richmond, but I guess it's a chicken and egg issue.
Well said. It is a chicken and egg issue for sure. But yeah, it certainly looked from their application like Inverness was putting $3,000 towards the initiative. Would folks be comfortable with that amount versus the $5,000, and I guess coming all out of the regional? We do have February and March left for that fund to cover.
Yeah, I would definitely not be interested in ascertaining the full $5,000 request. Like every other request, I think I would be comfortable or fairly comfortable with the $2,500, half of that. Again, it's kind of like the chicken egg combo.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Councillor Digdon. So we have a suggestion of $2,500 towards Raising the Villages application. Would folks be supportive of that? Yeah? And fully from the regional fund? Okay, so could I have a motion to award $2,500 to Raising the Villages for the grant application of the Type 4 Regional Health General being allocated fully from the regional fund?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Councillor Melanie Sampson. Any further discussion on that item? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried.
And there you have it. That wraps up this week's edition of Roundtable here on Telile Community Television. Thank you for tuning in, and a special thank you to my interview guest this week, Mitch David of the Richmond County Literacy Network. If you have any thoughts about what you've seen this week on Roundtable, or just some suggestions for a future edition of the show, I'd love to hear them. You can contact me directly. My phone number is 902-625-8863, and you can reach me by email using the address adamjrcook, cook with an E, @gmail.com. You can also contact Telile Community Television directly with your suggestions and your comments. The station phone number in Arishat is 902-226-1928, and the best email address to use is telile@telile.tv. Don't forget to follow Telile on social media. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Our Telile YouTube channel features every single episode of Roundtable, including this one, as well as individual segments and interviews from our shows. We offer the same service for our sister program, Telile 24/7, and you can also see a whole lot of French language journalism being produced by the newest addition to the Telile news team, Jacqueline Gerroir. For now, I'm Adam Cook. Thank you once again for joining me for this week's edition of Roundtable. I look forward to seeing you again next time with a brand new show. Bye for now.